Like, I listened to the Brannock collection and I was astounded to hear the Greenfields of Glentown on it. Again, that meant he wrote that probably in Donegal. And that's some achievement for a young teenager. Like, that's, as far as I know, that's the tune that actually got him into Ace Donna.
Another thing about it is that, like, there was a kind of a full range. So you take a tune like the Greenfields at Glentown, and it starts on the low, go right down, and it takes you up into the highest. So you're going sort of like the full sort of 2 octaves, 2.5 octaves. It's interestingly too that a lot of some of the tunes that he would have written, they didn't kind of follow the normal sort of repeated structures of phrases. So you take Glentown again, there's one repeat, and then it takes you, there's other phrases used, and it's the same in each part of it. And he didn't do what sort of was quite a common thing in Donegal, using the one part of the tune as a kind of a fulcrum for the tune to go around. There were 3 separate parts that needed to be played, and that again, that particular tune we're talking about, the Greenfields at Glentown, like it's a pretty formidable challenge, because when you've got through the second part, now you've got to climb the third part, you know. And seriously, and that's, you know, that's a very difficult thing to do. Very difficult. So, and it was sort of, you were brought into a kind of a high altitude of music. I've always felt, listening to him, you know, and that's a very, very rare gift to be able to do that in the 70s, to be able to create that sort of that whole, and I think that's kind of the coming together of all his musical curiosities and all his experiences, and then to have that within you and to be able to articulate it and to be able to resolve the tunes in the way he did them, because it's not always easy to resolve out of a third part back to a first part and first into the second part. So his resolutions were always really, really powerful and interesting, and they were always seamless.
So it's the Greenfields of Glentown, and I was out there taking some photographs, because I did a talk at the Donegal Fiddle Week about East Donegal fiddle playing, so I was sort of revisiting some of those areas, and it's a lovely part of the country.
The first that I ever heard was the Greenfields of the Glentown, or the Glentown, as it was called at him. And my granny was very, very, very proud of that. And from the first note you would hear on the radio, she would have recognised it and said, "There she was." And as I said, it was often played on the radio.
It's kind of it's a bit dizzying in some ways, like, when you hear it, like, because it's not your normal run of the mill. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way to any other musician. I really don't. It's just that there's a certain sense that this is so bloody well different. It's so far removed, and it's in its own. It has gone into its own sort of zone, and it finds a very, very, very high altitude. You know, its flight path is sort of way up there, high above everybody else. You know, and Tommy could go there very easily.
Again, he heard everything he wrote down. Like, he wouldn't sit with a fiddle and figure out combinations. I think to do that, you're kind of working from your memory bank, which I say is like a bank account. So whatever's in it is all that's ever going to be there. Whereas if you kind of listen more than, like I was saying about the, you know, just being a kind of a tube for a greater knowledge, and you listen, that's an infinite source of ideas and, you know, options. You're not bound by what you know. Like his own compositions, you definitely know, the majority of them you'd know they're his, because there'll always be some kind of mad jump or something in them that you go, oh God, there it is now, that's the bit that's going to break me. He very, very rarely wrote a very, very simple tune. Now, one thing, when I was going through that book, I remember being quite young, and there's like a little box with like a card for notes, you know, if you were giving a speech or something, and he had little tunes written on them. And I would imagine they were all written when he was very, very young. And there was a slipjig in it, in F, that was gorgeous, just a short 2-part single slipjig. But our house flooded, and a lot of stuff got destroyed. The house was underwater for like 2 weeks. I remember friends of mine going in and I gave them a camera and they were taking pictures. It was like the Titanic. There was just things floating around and it was very eerie, and so maybe got lost in that. I don't know. But I never saw that box since. But I remember going through the tunes that night at our table at home, and that slipjig struck me. I just was instantly taken to it. So there's probably a lot of compositions that he had, because he was always scribbling on envelopes and any old scrap of paper, beer mats, something come into his head, he just start. And he never, like I would write in ABC because it's my shorthand kind of, but he would always be there with the lines. You know, it was always the stave. So every piece of paper in our house, like, had bits of music written on them.